Hello, I'm Patrick Tufts, President and CEO of the Granite United Way, and this is your community at your service. This program will be the first of a series of 6 shows airing approximately every 2 months, which tells people in the greater Concord area about United Way, the activities that we're involved in, the things that we're doing, and the partnerships that we have. I'd like to say that the former host of this program, Liz Hager, former Executive Director of the Merrimack County United Way, did this show for many years and did it very well. So I'm honored to take over for Liz and to thank her, as I know she'll be watching. So thank you, Liz. Today, we're going to be talking about an important United Way partner, 211 New Hampshire. And joining me is Paul Ramsey from PSNH and Heather Acoltz from 211 New Hampshire. Good morning, guys.
How are you?
Morning.
I'm doing well. So we're going to start with Heather. Heather, what is 211 New Hampshire?
211 New Hampshire is the connector between the Health and Human Service programs that United Ways support and the people in New Hampshire that need them and can benefit from them. We're a free, confidential, multilingual number that you can reach by simply dialing 211 from anywhere in the state. And you'll be connected to a trained information and referral specialist who can help you determine what resources are out there that can help meet those needs that you might be having.
Great.
Yep.
So when somebody calls, they talk to a real person?
They do, 24/7 every day of the year.
Great.
Yep.
Now what if somebody doesn't speak English and they call in?
Yep. We do have access to language line interpreters, so we can conference an interpreter in and smoothly get through the call, just as if we're speaking to someone that speaks English.
Great.
Same thing.
And about how many calls has
Yep.
211 taken since we started?
Since we started in June of '08, we've taken, I believe it's over 140,000 at this point.
Wow,
Yep.
that's great.
Yeah.
And Paul, PSNH is very supportive of 211 New Hampshire. You've been there since the very beginning. Can you tell me a little bit about PSNH's commitment to the program and how that got started?
Well, it was an interesting discussion. At that time, I was on the board of United Way, and someone asked, does anybody know anything about call centers and taking calls from people? And I had the responsibility of the Public Service Company in New Hampshire call center at that time. We're open 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and we take over 1 million phone calls from our 550,000 customers. So we know a little bit about taking phone calls. And at the same time, we were also building a new call center in Manchester, New Hampshire. So I get involved in some of the research, and it's interestingly enough, what Heather needs for technological services to answer phone calls is exactly what we need from our customers. So we began to talk, and we began to say, you know, what if we were to take PSNH's call center technology in space, and that's what we do well, and merge it with what Heather and her team do very well, which is to help people. And an idea began to surface, and lo and behold, we said, well, what if we gave you some space in our call center? What if you use our computers? We'll maintain the computers because you're probably not good at that. We keep the phone lines going, and basically we do all the backroom support services for the 211 statewide. And it's been a wonderful partnership. It really has for both of us.
Great. Heather, is this done in other places in the country, or is this really unique to partner with an organization like PSNH?
I think this is really unique to New Hampshire. I know that there's a couple of other 211s nationally that have the same relationship with a private company or a for-profit company and their 211. For example, I know that there's a 211 in Colorado that operates out of an IBM building. Mm-hmm. And I think there's also a relationship between a 211 and a Chevron somewhere in the Midwest. But for New Hampshire and New England, it's definitely unique. And I can honestly say, without PSNH's support, we wouldn't be able to do what we're doing as well as we do.
That's great.
And actually, they're great to have in our call center because although we don't know for a fact specifically, we suspect that a lot of our customers are actually calling 211 for support for a whole bunch of reasons, whether they need fuel for the wintertime to keep warm or whether they have issues with their family, they can actually call in and get some help.
That's great.
And although from PSNH we just deal with the electric service part of the business, they deal with a whole lot more.
That's great. We have a short clip that we'd like to show you. And Heather, could you comment a little bit on what we're going to see?
Sure.
Okay.
These are some shots of our call center within the PSNH call center in Manchester. And you'll see some of our call specialists, including me, taking some calls. And you'll also see the computers that PSNH provides, the space that we operate in, all provided by PSNH. The phone systems. It's really everything we need to operate.
That's great. And these are, how many folks do we have at PSNH?
5 total working the 211 lines.
That's great.
Yep.
So this is the technology that we use actually for our customers as well. And if there are ever emergencies, such as floods or whatever throughout the state, we can actually open up more phone lines and take more phone calls. And for our customers, we have the capability of almost 2,000 phone calls at the same time.
That's great. I've seen a few other 211s across the country, and I can say that our physical space at PSNH is one of the best in the country, and we really appreciate it.
We do. It's a beautiful workspace.
Great. Heather, why don't we talk a little bit about what somebody might call 211 for? What are some of the interesting calls that you've received, specifically maybe in the greater Concord area?
In the greater Concord area, we hear from people a lot of times in need of help with paying for housing. So help with their rent, security deposits, help getting into an apartment. Also people in need of transportation, and they're not quite sure of what the transportation resources are in Concord, especially if they might have a disability or they're not able to drive any longer and they need a ride to a medical appointment or someone to help them run some errands, things like that. We also hear a lot from people in Concord that they need help with their taxes when tax season rolls around. And we can offer them free programs that can help them prepare their taxes.
Great.
Yeah, and return some money back into their households.
One of the things that I love about 211 is it knows no income barriers. I mean, 211 is there for everyone. I've talked to bank presidents who've utilized it for help with a family member. I've talked with people that have a long history of needing help and working with various agencies. And they're very complimentary about your staff and the personal touch that you apply to this.
I think it means a lot for people to be able to call and actually get a person on the phone, no matter what time of day or night it is. And someone that is really knowledgeable on a broad range of topics and needs, whether it's someone that's homeless and in need of shelter, or someone that may have a home, may have a child with a drug problem, and they're not sure what to do. Mm-hmm. We really cover a large spectrum of needs, and no matter what it is, we can find help.
That's great.
Yeah.
Paul, you mentioned that this is a great partnership for PSNH. What are some of the things that you think are the value add for PSNH as a company doing business in New Hampshire to partner with the United Way and 211 in particular?
Well, as I mentioned before, Patrick, our customers use 211. Mm-hmm. So to the extent that we can help 211 indirectly, we're helping our customers. So that's first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Secondarily, it's great for our employees. The fact that they see our company helping in a different way, that is exciting for our employees. They love Heather's team, having them there at the call centers. I know they participate in all the events there as well. We share some of our training with them as well. So they get a different perspective of the world besides of just what they learned from PSNH, and they learn about the real issues in New Hampshire. So I think they end up for being better employees because of that. And then finally, this is an opportunity, aside from just giving money to a good cause, this is more in what we call in-kind services. And it's just sharing a small part of our services. If we take over 1 million phone calls a year, the number of calls that they take is just part of that 1 million. So the extent we can bring the latest technology to help people in New Hampshire, that's our value added. It makes a lot of sense to us.
One of the things that I'm very proud of when it comes to this program is we built 211 in what I call the New Hampshire Advantage way. 211 is a very cost-effective program. PSNH's partnership has allowed us to build a program with the best technology, with the best services, I think with the best staff, at a cost that's about a quarter of what other states are paying for the same service. So again, it's partnerships. One of our other partners in 211 is the state of New Hampshire. And Heather, I know we do some specific things for them. Could you tell me a little bit about some of our relationships with the state and things that we do for them in times of need?
One of our partnerships with the state of New Hampshire is through the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management and the Department of Safety to provide a public inquiry line that New Hampshire residents can call in times of disaster, emergency, for disaster-related needs, to report damage that they may have had to their home or personal property. They may need road conditions, shelter. They might need to know where they can go and get some food locally during a disaster when they've lost electricity and, you know, who knows what else at that point. So, yep, they can dial us for that. We also have a partnership with the State Bureau of Homeless and Housing Services to provide a homeless hotline where anyone in need of shelter can call, and we can direct them to where the resources are, share information with them, and get them connected with outreach services. So yeah, so those two, that's been working out fantastically. I think we've helped a lot of people, and it's exciting to be able to do it. Yeah.
Heather and I often talk that part of her role and her team's role is almost the same as being an emergency first responder. When something really bad happens in the state of New Hampshire, 211 is one of the first places that people call. Paul, we were talking earlier about how it's an advantage for 211 to be at PSNH because we're able to share information so quickly. And you guys are really leaders in terms of knowing what's going on in the state when there's an event like a hurricane or an ice storm. Can you tell me a little bit about how you guys mobilize for those events and how it benefits 211 to be in the same building?
Well, if you're in the electric business, the weather is sometimes not so kind. And recently we had Tropical Storm Irene, or somebody call Hurricane Irene. And that's where a lot of our customers may lose power. So what we do is spend a great deal of time getting ready for these storms. We have special weather forecast services that we bring in, try and anticipate where the damage will be, where people will be needed, where we need to deploy our trucks. And so we share a lot of that information with Heather and her team.